queue from last week, as the recording, the audio wasn't matching the video. So let's just get straight into it. We've taken lows from the left, inducing sellers, okay, and so we're expecting to come out and take those highs. Obviously, we need to have enough liquidity there for us to take those highs. Noticed how on Monday we respected that low to the left, okay. Tuesday, so on Monday we could have looked for shorts down. On Tuesday we've taken those lows. Once we've taken those lows out, okay, I'm expecting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday to just be longs back up, okay. So let's just go through dissecting what price did, okay, and where liquidity has been built. So this was the low, and in fact, if we look at where this reaction came from, okay, notice how we had that reaction there and we moved up and broke structure. Okay, we now have liquidity below that low, and so look what the market comes and hunts for. So going into sort of market open, notice how, if I just zoom into PA, notice how we were respecting, okay, these lows to the left, okay. We even broke structure here to the upside, okay. Now that would be a LB because we broke structure to the downside, okay. We came up, had a reaction, and I really like when we form LBs after having a reaction then taking out that high. So we've now formed an LB, okay, and that was Friday. So coming into market open, you see how we've taken that inducement low, okay, inducing sellers, okay, and we still have these lows all the way to the left hand side, okay. So going into Monday, the bias would have been shorts. Why? Because as you can see, as we go through Asia into London, we're just building liquidity, we're respecting these lows. So if I just point that out, we're just respecting these lows. What do we come out? So we've induced sellers, okay. Notice how we have a reaction at these low, at this high, okay, bringing in sellers, okay. Notice how we've built liquidity to the downside. Now, if we go down to lower time frames, notice how price comes up, okay, and takes that extreme inducement high, okay. Now that would have been a aggressive entry. This could have been a direct entry, in fact, to those lows, okay. Now this was pre stock exchange open, yeah, okay. So quite an aggressive entry. However, I believe there was also a confirmation entry on Monday as well. So let's just delve into more price action. So we've taken those highs. What have we done? We've induced buyers, okay. Now if we go down to lower time frames and check this out, so notice how we've induced buyers, okay. Now buyers are looking to take positions at these lows, okay. Now notice how we trapped them. So we've taken that inducement low, okay, and what we've then done, oops, don't know what happened there. What we've then done, once we've taken out that inducement low, is we've come and taken these highs, okay. Now why this high specifically? Notice how we have this build up, okay. We had this lower low, lower high, lower low, okay. So price comes and takes that high, forming an LB. Okay, we then break structure lower. Okay, giving us or creating that inducement high. Okay, and notice how we have these reactions. Okay, these pauses, as Elijah mentions, and any sell above that high would have been a nice confirmation entry. So just like that, covering the LB. Okay, now where would we be targeting? Okay, just those lows would have been a great target. So these lows here, and then you could have left a partial and then targeted these lows right to the left. Okay, so these lows here. Okay, and if you held all the way through, okay, that's a great RR, 1 to 8.7. Okay, notice how once we've taken those lows, let's just go to higher time frame. Now on a futures prop firm, we'd obviously have to close. Now you could have held that on a CFD account, okay, until all that liquidity was taken on, was that Monday? Tuesday, yeah, sorry, on Monday. Okay, so going into Tuesday. Now notice what happens on Tuesday. So with that would have been a nice sort of, so you had a chance to get in aggressively, and then you had a confirmation on Monday. Now notice how once those lows have gone, okay, we've now trapped these buyers and induced sellers. But notice what we did as we moved down. Okay, we're literally creating or engineering, okay, loads of liquidity, okay, as we move down. Okay, so once those lows have gone, we now have a bullish bias, and you can see here on Tuesday, I'll just clear my charts up a little bit. On Tuesday, how we induced lower. Okay, we come up, we respect those highs, induce lower again, respect those highs, induce lower again. We've basically created or engineered liquidity to these highs. Okay, these highs here. Now look what the market does. It comes and takes those lows. Now there is a direct LB to the left, and these are very, very clean LBs. Notice how again we took these highs, okay, and then we took that low. So we now have an LB. So you could have taken a direct entry. So how it would have been framed out was, as soon as these lows go, your stops would have covered the LB, and then you would have been targeting, okay, all that liquidity that's been built. So this would have been a great target. Okay, and again, if you're on a futures prop firm, you would have held to close. So you can see how we've engineered liquidity there, and yeah, that would have been a great target, intraday target. So you could have taken that direct entry, and you could have on a CFD just held till those highs. Okay, now why this high? Because we've basically respected and moved away. Okay, now I believe there was also a confirmation entry here. So yeah, that was a direct entry, and as soon as those lows were gone, I believe there was a confirmation. I wasn't at the charts at the time, but when I reviewed this, so we took this low. Yeah, this is perfect. We took this low, we then come up, take this high to then take that low. We've now basically created an LB, and what's our next step? We're literally looking for a build up. Notice how we break structure higher, we respect these lows, we break structure higher again, and then we come and take all of that. We take that inducement low. That would be another entry. Okay, that would be your confirmation entry. Stops much smaller, and then again, I would have just targeted, just because of time of day, I would have just targeted the highs that took that low. Okay, so that inducement high, and that would have given you a 1 to 5.8. So Tuesday longs were valid. Okay, we still have all of that engineered liquidity above, okay, as I've been mentioning. And so what does price do? We go back to higher time frames now. Okay, so on Wednesday, okay, notice how we've come and taken those highs. Because we've taken those highs, okay, we've taken that high, we've induced buyers, okay. So taking any sort of buys were high risk until lows went. So I wouldn't have taken anything. I would have waited until more liquidity was present. Now, if I just clear my charts here and look at where we are on Wednesday, okay, so let me just put a vertical line. There we go. So on Wednesday, so notice all this liquidity that's been built, okay. We are targeting these highs, okay, and if I was to show you where we've built liquidity, okay, you can see how we've respected these highs. We've also respected these highs, okay. So we do have long targets, however, we need to see buyers trapped. And on Wednesday and Thursday, we were just basically respecting those lows, okay. I do believe there was a long on Wednesday. Let me just check that out. So let's just have a look. So we want those highs gone. Yeah, nothing there for me on Wednesday. We literally just respected. So look, we've taken, where's Wednesday? So yeah, here. So we've taken these highs, respected, building liquidity. Yeah, nothing for me on Wednesday. Same with Thursday, we've taken those highs. Yeah, I can't see nothing for Thursday. I mean, we do have these highs to target, so I would have just waited until I saw something clean. Did those highs get taken? No, they didn't. So maybe on Thursday, let's see if there was anything on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday looks, is that Wednesday or Thursday? Can't tell. So yeah, let's just break down what happened on Wednesday. So we're here, okay. So we've had that long entry, okay. We've got all of this liquidity to the highs, okay. So what does price do on Wednesday? Notice how we're just having a build up of price, okay, just inducing buyer. So nothing, I wouldn't be involved in any London entry at this point, okay. And then what do we do on market open? Let's have a look. So we've got all this liquidity being built to the left. Okay, so we're just respecting. Okay, and I can see how we formed an LB here, at the lows. Yeah, I think this is a good entry actually, just targeting these highs. Notice how we've built buyers in the market. So like I said, I'm not looking for any buyers until buyers have been trapped, and I believe we can see that here where these lows get taken. As soon as those lows get taken, I would have entered. So I think that's just right on market open. Stops below the low, and I would have just targeted the high. And this is why your exit is just as important as your entry, because as we've taken our target TP, look what the market does once it takes out liquidity from the left. We have that move all the way back down, clearing all of that liquidity. So all of this liquidity then gets cleared, inducing sellers, and then what do? We move higher. Okay, so we move higher. Okay, again, we're just engineering more liquidity. Check this out. More liquidity at these highs. Okay, notice how we come and take that high out. Okay, we then respect this area again, and then look what happens on Thursday, Asia. We come back up and take that high. Okay, so we're now taking that liquidity, and we have that move down. Once we have that move down on I believe this is now, yeah, Thursday. So we have that move down. We've still got that liquidity above. Okay, so you always got to look to the left. So what happens on Thursday? Okay, so we have that move down and then that move up. Okay, now we've basically, if I go to higher time frames and have a look at this, look how we've taken, okay, liquidity from the left. Okay, taking any buys now would not be high probability. Okay, we've got all that liquidity above as well. Now, once I basically waited for all of this liquidity to be taken, so I didn't take anything on Thursday. Okay, I waited for all that liquidity to be taken basically. And in doing so, okay, once that liquidity was taken, I did look for shorts down on my eval accounts, and because what did I see? If I go down to the 1 minute, this is what I saw basically. All right, so we had that LB above. Okay, we had this build up, and I took a short. Was it here? Sorry, no, that wasn't it. It was here. So liquidity had been taken on Friday during London. Sorry, it was over here. Okay. So I had a limit and I got tagged in right here. That's where I got tagged in at 9:53, because I saw that we've taken that high. We've created an LB, and I believe we even took this high. And I think the 15-minute shows it much better, if I'm correct. Or was it the hourly? I think it was the 15. 5. Sorry, it was the 5. There we go. So notice how we took that high there. So I basically had my stops above there, and I got tagged in like this. So quite risky. But what I just basically targeted the liquidity we had built at the lows. Okay, so just like that. Okay, and then once we took this low here, notice how this is really nice, by the way. I took this long back up as well, so notice how we induced buyers and then we trapped them, and I treated this as an LB, and notice what happens after. It's really important. We come in, we take a high, take a low. So we've taken a high, taken a low. So took a high, took a low, formed another LB. We then stayed below that high. We've induced sellers, and I think if you go to the 1 minute, notice where we've induced buyers. We had a breaker structure to the upside, and then we came and took those lows. That's where my long entry was, way before I was up for the week, so I didn't mind taking this. And I think I covered the whole stop, and I basically targeted these highs all the way to the top. Yeah, that's basically what I targeted. So look what happened when we opened on Friday. We came, and you wouldn't be looking for any buys, because once those highs were taken, I was BE once those highs were taken, because now any buys are invalid. Okay, we've induced buyers. Okay, and essentially what we've done is we've just respected these lows on Friday, and then we just moved higher, and we came and took those highs out again. Okay, so nothing on Friday. Now notice once we've taken all that liquidity, okay, we now need to engineer liquidity to all-time highs. Okay, we won't just come and take all of that out. So that's all-time highs over there. Okay, and once we've taken that liquidity, look, where do we come to? We just start to sell off. Where we come into? We are coming to the liquidity that we engineered on that move up. Okay, and we're coming to take that. So yeah, that was basically NQ for this week. I'm hoping it makes sense. So really and truly, there was an entry on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Friday. So one pair, plenty of opportunities on NQ. Really nice work. Where do I see NQ going? So now that we've basically taken these lows, I mean, we can look at it from a weekly perspective. It gives it away. We've taken these lows. I think we've ride up back to all-time highs again. So I am long on NQ solely because of this. So maybe we open up, spike down, and then we move back up.